Okay, I've developed a checklist for you guys for tonight's lesson for March the 24th. What I want you to do is go through your research papers that you're working on now and cover these points on punctuation and grammar, because these are the areas that I'm seeing the most of. The first one is punctuation. If you on this site now, you can scroll down and see the little test video I made, and that will show you the first punctuation that you need to be careful of is that your periods follow the parenthetical entry, not in front of those. So we got that out of the way. The next thing I want you to do is go through your entire paper. If you find a semicolon anywhere, I want you to stop on that semicolon and make sure that you have a complete sentence in front of it and a complete sentence behind it. Okay? That's a big error that I'm catching a lot of these days. Also, if you can, on this site, you can scroll down and you'll find an article I've written about semicolon usage, and that may be able to help you out as well. The next thing I want you to check for are colons. If you use a colon anywhere, as soon as you stop, remember a colon is used to introduce a list, mainly. That's its primary function. So stop at the colon, look to the left of the colon, and make sure that you have a complete sentence in front of that colon. A big error I'm finding is that you are leaving a fragment in front of it, and that's going to cost you in your paper. Next is the comma. Unlike the semicolon, the comma, I need you to stop and look to the left and to the right and make sure there is not a complete sentence on each side. Otherwise, you're going to have a comma splice. Next, we need to check our grammar. Now, the first one is basic. It's subject-verb agreement error. Now, words should be checking your grammar for you. If you don't have that function turned on, you need to turn it on. If you find a green squiggly line, then you need to go back and make sure that your subjects and verbs agree. The biggest error that I'm finding in these papers is pronoun antecedent agreement error. Whenever you find yourself using a pronoun, that is a word that is replacing another word which is called its antecedent. Make sure that they agree in number. Once again, on this site you can scroll down and I have another article written about pronouns. But let me give you an example. The pronoun antecedent agreement error is coming up a lot because it seems to be everywhere today. Now, just because it is used in everyday writing doesn't mean it's correct. A lot of people aren't following the rules. I'll give you a perfect example. Here's today's paper from the Daily Journal. I want to read this sentence to you. Now, this person is supposedly being paid as a writer. Just because he's being paid as a writer and uses pronoun antecedent agreement error does not mean that it's correct. Here's a sentence. Now, this is dealing with, I don't know, the title is Switching Gears from Brackets to Baseball. I'm not going to give the guy's name. He's talking about fantasy leagues, and I don't know anything about that. But listen to this sentence. Granted, if someone ends up playing 40 leagues, they would rarely be able to leave their house, let alone their computer, for fear they will miss the latest call-up or find out one of their starting pitchers, blah, blah, blah. Look at the pronouns. Their, they, used continuously, but the pronoun is going straight back to its antecedent, and the antecedent is someone. How many is someone? One. Someone ends up playing in 40 leagues. They. They is more than one. They and someone do not add up. So what you need to do is anytime you find yourself using a pronoun, he, him, her, she, they, their, draw an arrow back to the word that is being replaced by that pronoun and make sure they agree in number. Now, we've had this conversation before, and the best thing to do is always write in plural. For example, on this one, going back to it, instead of saying, granted, if someone ends up playing, if he would have written, granted, if people end up playing, then people and they, because people is more than one and they is more than one, then we would agree and everything will be good. The next thing I want you to check for is in your direct quotes. Now, if you find any errors in anything we're talking about, pronoun antecedent, subject verb agreement error, if you find any errors in a direct quote, remember you have the option of either correcting that error or identifying that error. If you want to correct it, that's fine, but remember you can't change people's words or you can't change what they've written without showing that change. You show that change in brackets. So you can make the correction, but make sure the correction is placed in brackets. Or you can use brackets sick. Remember, you should have these. You should have this in your notes. So immediately after the error, just put brackets, SIC, brackets, space, and move on. That shows that the error was committed by whoever wrote the article or whoever wrote the quote that you're using in your paper, and that you didn't make that error. If you fail to use brackets sick, then the error will be placed on you as the writer. Remember, your function in research writing is you're a researcher, you're a writer, and you're an editor. Okay? So just remember that. This is for your upcoming paper. Another thing you can do is scroll down on this site again, and you'll find the #1 proofreading tip, which is to read your papers aloud. You may want to do it by yourself, or if you don't care, that's fine. Do it wherever you are. But if you speak out loud, you will hear many more errors than when you're reading it, because when you read, we can read a lot faster than we can speak, and we seem to skip over errors. So that's your assignment for tonight. Go through your paper that you have put together so far. Now, a reminder, on Thursday we'll meet in the library, Thursday the 26th, and that will be your last research day, so your paper will be due the following week. So go through your punctuation, your semicolons, if you're using any, colons, and the commas. Make sure you have complete sentences on both sides of the semicolon. Make sure you do not have complete sentences on both sides of a comma. And if you're using a colon, make sure you have a complete sentence in front of it before you give your list. Check your pronouns and antecedents. Make sure your subjects and verbs agree. And also, when you do your punctuation for your parenthetical entries, make sure the period falls on the right side of the parenthetical entry, not on the left side. Unless you are using a long quote, and I taught you how to use a long quote, but if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me, email me, or come by the office. So that should give you plenty to do for tonight. Remember, it's 4 different sources, 12 parenthetical entries. And I will see you guys Thursday in the library, not the classroom. We'll meet in the library at 7:30.